Good morning, everybody in YouTube land. It's your buddy Choppadon coming at you with another episode of Chop Talk. You didn't think I could go the whole All-Star break without talking to you, did you? Point is, I had a brainstorm at the halfway point of the season. It's a hard checkpoint where I like to sit back, review things, kind of look at what went right, what went wrong. More importantly, how can I continue to pass knowledge on to you guys, maybe in a unique way, because we all get into routines and we all get into ruts. And so I started thinking that there's a neat way to check for pricing discrepancies on Fanduel and DraftKings, and I chose Fanduel. And we'll walk through that today. So this might be interesting. But of course, if you like the material that I produce, you click the subscribe, click the like button, you retweet me out on Twitter. Just always trying to bring knowledge to you guys and really kind of pay it forward from an industry that's given me an awful lot and given me a platform to start talking to you guys. And honestly, I mean, we're sponsored by DFSArmy.com, where I'd like to see you become a VIP for the second half. I'm going to tell you prices are going up probably here in a couple of weeks, and if you jump now, you grandfather your price in for the lifetime of your membership, meaning as long as you stay a member, your prices never go up. You would use the coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P, for a 10% discount on top of that, and down in the comment section is where you'll find the link to the website. So just honestly, give us some consideration. We do a lot of tools, a lot of content, a lot of coaching, things that you see me talk about here, things you don't see me talk about here that I share for the VIPs. So again, just give us some consideration. I appreciate that. That helps pay the bills, keep us moving forward. And more importantly, let's dive into Chop Talk here and show you kind of what I'm talking about with those pricing discrepancies. This is a good opportunity. I saw a tweet by somebody, and I'm sorry I didn't get your name, to pass credit where it's due, about somebody was I think they were talking Alex Bregman was averaging 11.2 fantasy points per game, and it blew my mind. I went, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that he was producing that consistently. Well, okay, there's ups, there's downs, there's all this kind of stuff in the fantasy world. Guys go through cold streaks and hot streaks, and that's maybe more of a season-long type of idea to look at and see how well these guys. And then of course we've got guys that we know underperformed and will come back towards their norm, and guys that are overperforming that should settle back towards their norm. And that's part of the challenge going forward, is predicting when these things will happen. But more importantly, we can use that as to, if some of these names like Bregman and whatever surprised me. I know Bregman didn't surprise a lot of people. He's $4,200, $4,400, whatever on any given day on FanDuel. But some of these guys are going to surprise us, and what we can find out is, let's say we didn't know that that pitcher was doing so well or that outfielder was doing so well. Maybe their price is not where it should be. And that's an opportunity for us. We've got a lot of numbers that we can look at, a large enough sample of first half of a season that we can then move forward with and start projecting. Maybe they do more of the same, and if so, maybe they're still a bargain. So let's kind of take a look at this. It's a little bit unique. I do this from time to time in different sports, but I don't think to go do it very often. So it might be kind of interesting. What I did was I called up FanDuel, and I want to go into the MLB page, and I want to go into, I don't care what contest you pick, and just pick one and call up the player pool. And what I'm going to be looking for is I can sort these columns if I want, by salary, of course, by the games played, by fantasy points per game. And this is what I'm looking for. Bring all of the top guys to the top and see if it shuffles that order any. So coming out of the break, pitcher-wise, Steven Strasburg, granted he's on the DL, but Steven Strasburg, 38.6 points per game. That is by far and away the best pitcher in baseball right now. Did you know that? I didn't. Everybody gets hung up on Scherzer and, Kershaw and these types of guys. And I know Verlander has, well, this is for who's playing coming out of the gate. If somebody got an extra day off, which it doesn't look like many did, if anybody did, but this would be who that is for, is who's starting on that day. So I should definitely clarify that. Verlander may not be starting on the next day coming off the All-Star break. But for those that we have to choose from, let's put it that way. For those that we have to choose from, Strasburg I didn't realize he was that far up there. I knew he was a good pitcher and all. Syndergaard, I didn't realize. I would have said maybe Syndergaard was more, productive than Strasburg. Kyle Gibson, hello, shocker. Dylan Bundy, hello, shocker. David Price having a decent year. James Taillon, Dallas Keuchel, we knew was struggling, but look, when the prices get out of whack, Dallas Keuchel's overpriced. If you just look at this metric alone, you should be focused on Tyon, Sanchez, these types of guys. Because if they're going to all get you around their average of 30 points, you don't want to pay up $9,000 for that when you only have to pay $7,000 for it. You know what I'm saying? And then of course you're going to take this general knowledge, and then you would look at who the matchup is. Like Gibson against Kansas City. We know Kansas City doesn't strike out a lot. We know Minnesota's been kind of hot offensively. Whether that continues or not, I don't know. We know we're not afraid of the Kansas City offense. So Gibson's maybe going to find himself in a pretty good matchup to get the third highest point producer on the slate on average in a predictive position like pitcher, where generally speaking, they kind of do about what they're supposed to do. That this is a good opportunity to look at things a little bit differently, because we focus so much on K-score and Vegas lines and all this stuff that this is just a different way to look at it, and sometimes it tips your eyeballs or your brain towards a different way of looking at things. Okay, so that's why you'd scroll down here a little bit and maybe you'll see somebody that's way overpriced. Not typically. It looks like Dallas Keuchel's the most overpriced guy on the slate, so I would avoid him. Catchers and first baseman, lump them together on Fanduel. Freeman, Goldschmidt, Real Muto, Bowers has enough games under his belt, 36 games. That's all right. It's not like it's 4 games. Aguilar, Encarnacion, Votto, Belt. We'd expect Votto to be there. Smoke, whatever. These guys are pretty good. Now we start looking for price discrepancies. There's a 33. There's a couple 33s and then another 41. So Aguilar might be a little overpriced. Joey Votto might be a little overpriced compared to what you can get in Real Muto or maybe Bowers. This is a way to shop for value, and it's probably a way that nobody's taught you to look before. Second base, Albies, Muncy, Jeanette, Altuve, LeMahieu, Lowry. You got a couple guys on the DL. Brian Dozier is where he should be. I mean, he's coming up the chart. He had an awful April, and he's starting to come up the chart. Let's look for value again. We got the big guys up top. The 4,000 guys should be at the top, but look at LeMahieu at 3,200. Bang. 3,300 for Jed Lowry. These are the guys that I might be focused on. They get me above a lot. Brian Dozier is overpriced. They get me on a lot of these types of numbers, because 10.9 and 11.7, isn't too far away. 12.7 is, but you got a pretty close gap in the point per game, but you got a pretty significant gap in the pricing. Third base, Ramirez, Suarez, Arenado, Bregman, Rendon, Escobar, Donaldson if he was healthy, Profar, Moustakas. Okay, Moustakas is a big boom or bust guy, but you're getting a lot of boom out of him to get 10 points per game over 90 games. Doesn't mean he's necessarily worth playing, especially in cash games and situations like that. You might get off of a Ramirez at 4,800 unless his matchup is just completely cherry and none of these other guys are really on the slate with him. But you could look to a Suarez at 3,700 and save $1,000 and get, a 1.5 difference. Down in this 13 tier, Suarez is still the guy, because these guys are $600 more at 4,300. Now we're starting to drop off in tiers pretty quickly. But why would we take the $4,100 guy when we got a $3,100 guy, or a $3,700 guy? Save a little bit of money. If Donaldson was around 3,000 is ridiculous. Profar at 3,100 at 10 points ain't so bad. Lindor, Story, Bogarts, Machado, all the big names, Segura, Didi, Trey, whatever, all up here. Look at all Mondesi. Graham's only 21 games, but we're starting to get a little bit of a sample size here, and he's got 10 points. He's at 2,600. That's why a lot of guys were getting on him towards the All-Star break, getting on him in those games, even in the 8-hole when he was hitting down at the bottom. 14.5 games, 12.5 dollars. So there's a big drop-off here, but there's not a big drop-off in price. That stinks. I'd like to see a bigger drop-off in price. 12.5 guys are all around 4,000. So in this case, I'd probably pay up the extra few $100, get the extra couple of points per game, grab me some Lindor, drop down a little bit more to the next tier down. Now you're down to the 3,700s. Now I've got a debate between 37 and 42. Is the $500 worth the point per game? I don't know, probably matchup dependent. 3,900 feels a little overpriced. 3,600, 2,600. I mean, you got to go down that way, right? You can keep dropping down into the 10s, and there's some. Again, this is really standing out. Even though it's a small sample, it's really standing out. 2,600 over 3,300 over the same general points per game. I'm going to take the bargain. Know what I mean? All right, outfielders, we'll just look really quick here. There's your top 10 roughly. Go down from Brock, Chu, Brantley, just number 10. So I just wrote it down. I'm going to tweak these things out. Harper, Myers, Yelich, Myers on 33 games. I mean, Myers should be right about there, I guess, maybe a little better. But if we start scrolling down, we start looking for the price discrepancies. There's a 2,400, very small sample size. Don't trust that one yet. But 3,500 for a top 10 guy's getting reasonable, and Pollock and Rosario. Scroll down a little bit more. Chu is reasonable. These are guys that you can use in your cash games for value. You know, unless you know that the guy's a boom or bust guy. Now we're starting to scroll down here a little bit. I can't find one that's necessarily too out of place. 2,900 for Cespedes, obviously DL. I'm looking for the 29s, the low threes. There's a 3, a DL. 3,200 for Herrera. You know, at 10.3 per game. You would take this 10.3. One thing you can just go to all or utility, get the pitchers out of there. And now we can start comparing every position to itself. Outfielder, shortstops, third baseman alike, and start looking. There's one with Suarez again. So Suarez is one of the bigger values in the league right now in terms of DFS. Duggar, of course, small sample. Rosario, Real Muto, Chu. These are guys that should form the core of your cash lineups when they're in anything but horrible matchups. Just they're going to get their numbers. Look at the first half they put up. They're competitive with these big $4,000 and $5,000 guys, and they're all in the mid to low threes. Hopefully that's giving you a little bit of an idea of what you can do. Let's go ahead and let's play around. While we're here, we're at 10 minutes. We'll get this done in about 15 minutes. So where did I say Real Muto is obviously one that you would start with. If you like Bowers, throw him in there. You know, second base. Where did we say Albies was shouldered above everybody else? They're all about the same price. And then what did we get to? LeMahieu was a value, right? Or Lowry. Third base, Suarez, of course. Shortstop, we said pay up for Lindor, correct? And when I go into the outfield, I'm looking at 4,000 or so. I need to be thinking about a pitcher. So, you know what? This isn't a bad spot to go throw a pitcher in there. Take a little Kyle Gibson, Sanchez, tie on, do Sanchez. Save some money. Go back into the outfield spots. Now I'm at 3,200 per player. So Duggar's on a small sample, which really stinks because that would be great. If I'm looking to get under 32, I mean 33 we mentioned, Chu. Come down here a little bit more. 34 and Rhys Hoskins. Blanco, Teoscar Hernandez, not bad. David Peralta, not bad. Abdullah Herrera, not bad. You know, and I've still got 3,200 for both. You know, Inciarte, not bad. A little bit of savings, and now for a utility spot at 3,500. I mean, look at the names I'm going to have to choose from. Pollock, Rosario, Bowers again. Could use Bowers. Chris Davis, double dong power. Aaron Hicks, get a Yankee in there. Again, I'm not paying attention to stacking. I'm not paying attention to anything other than price and value. And this is where you're building your cash game lineups from usually. You know, did I have a Philly guy in there? No, so Polanco wouldn't be. Let's go back up towards the top. Just take straight up points per game and slap Pollock in there. That's a pretty solid cash game lineup if you add up their average points per player. That's going to be competitive. It's spread out. It's not too stacked up anywhere. You know what I mean? It's got exposure to some decent scoring teams and some decent matchups probably. That's going to be a cash game lineup you could roll out with a little bit of confidence. You might make some tweaks here and there, but there you basically have it. So it's a different way to build. Hopefully you get something out of that. Hopefully you enjoy this kind of talk back and forth and you enjoy these ideas, because these things, as they pop into my head, I tend to throw them on YouTube. I tend to throw them out on Twitter or throw them in our Slack room for our VIPs, depending on how deep the concept is or how much conversation we get going back and forth, because I love conversing with our VIPs. They'll ask questions back. They teach me as much as I teach them. I just happen to have the microphone. So it's a fun way to learn DFS and get involved, and I swear to you, it brings a ton of value with the tools and the optimizers and the coaching that you get from all of us coaches. You can learn a lot of different ways to skin a cat and a lot of different ways to play the same game and make your overall game better, which is the whole idea. And I would encourage you, don't leave when seasons flip over, when NFL ends. Don't leave, because First of all, you expose yourself to that price going up at DFS Army, and it will continue to rise until we find ourselves competitively priced with some of the big dogs out there. But second of all, you're going to continue to learn when you learn the different sports and you learn the other ways to play. You're going to enhance your DFS game. That first year I started playing, I stuck around. I said, you know what, I'd like to learn hockey. But I got sucked into basketball because it's one of the more predictive sports for DFS, and I was being asked to write a little bit and contribute a little bit, and so I stuck around. And basketball, and then the following year baseball. It was my second time through baseball, but baseball made me a better NFL player when I came back and sat down. And NFL season was getting. We'd already been talking about it for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and then I sat down and realized how much the other sports made my game better. Just constantly talking about lineup construction and when to go contrarian and when to eat the chalk and when to, balance your constructions and how much to stack and what correlation, all this kind of stuff. All these little things kept coming out and making me a better player, making me learn more. And when I went back into my fantasy football league that next year, I had a very clear edge just by listening to what those other guys talked about. I'm just sitting there scratching my head going, how do you not know this? How do you not? Well, they didn't stay plugged in year round to their hobby. Hopefully that's what this is for you. Hopefully it's a hobby. Hopefully you get a lot of value out of DFSArmy.com. You come take a look at us and check us out. And again, use the code CHOP, C-H-O-P, for a 10% discount. So once again, your buddy Chopadong on YouTube with an episode of Chop Talk brought to you by DFSArmy.com. Come take a look at us. We'll see you on the inside.